PackIt here. I'm doing a new segment on a new channel based only on mixed martial arts, man. Now, I'm a big MMA fan, whether it be from Muay Thai to boxing to just any sort of fighting, man. I'm a big fight fan. Now, don't get me wrong, I may not know all the stats and everything, but I am a bit knowledgeable and I am a big fan. So, what I wanted to bring you guys is a segment called Last Week's MMA Today. So, what I want to do is just bring you up to date on everything that happened last week in MMA and then let you know exactly what's going on. I'll be trying to do this every week. That way, you guys are up to current events in the MMA community. I first wanted to start off with this big old issue going on. Now, UFC 200 just recently passed. You know, we had a bunch of great fights. Well, it was an okay card compared to what I thought it was gonna be with the John Jones and just I thought it was gonna be more exciting, but it was okay. You know, I'm not gonna knock it, but for the buildup that it had, the big hype of UFC 200, it didn't quite cut it. So, with that being said, there's some big issues going on. The Nevada Athletic Commission is looking down upon Brock Lesnar and John Jones. Now, Brock Lesnar and John Jones both tested positive for estrogen blockers. Now, let's start off with Brock. Brock was scheduled to fight Mark Hunt. Now, they did go ahead and fight. I think it went for like 3 rounds. That I'm not too sure of. I kind of forgot. But Brock Lesnar and Mark Hunt fight. Now, Brock did end up winning that fight due to, I mean, he just overpowered him with his wrestling. Mark Hunt didn't have much of a ground game to begin with. But, again, Mark Hunt is a great fighter. He's got great knockout power. Now, the issue is the UFC knew that Brock Lesnar had tested dirty before the fight, and they still let him fight. Now, that's a big issue. The UFC has also done this before. Mark Hunt is pissed off, man. This is actually the third opponent that Mark Hunt has had to face with steroid use, you know, or either steroid use or some sort of banned substance. Okay, so this is the third opponent. So if I was Mark Hunt, I'd be pissed off too. The UFC has yet to do anything about this. And again, it's justifiable that Mark Hunt is pissed. Mark Hunt went on to say on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, he did state that he's pissed. I mean, he was very vulgar and expressed his feelings very harshly against the UFC and the Nevada Athletic Commission. He even went as far as to say that it was almost like attempted murder. If you really think about it, I mean, he didn't know at the time what Brock had gotten tested for or tested positive for. But if you really think about it, yeah, man, you're using a performance enhancement drug or some sort of steroid or whatever that can potentially give you that edge to overpower your opponent to the point of maybe even killing him, because you don't know what the drugs might actually do to you. So Mark Hunt is pissed off, man. He went on cussing out the UFC, how they haven't helped him out. They knew that Brock Lesnar had tested dirty and they still let him fight. Same thing as Mark Hunt's 2 previous other fights. They still let him fight to not lose points for the pay-per-view or money, whatever the case may be. But I think that's fucked up, man. I don't think they should be doing that. Mark Hunt went on to say also that he wants all, if not some, you know, of Brock Lesnar's purse. Brock Lesnar got paid, I think, $2.5 million for that fight. Mark Hunt didn't even make half of that, you know. So we all know that Brock Lesnar is a big name. You know, he's a WWE superstar. But coming to the cage, man, you need to it's not fake anymore. This is a real sport with people that do get hurt, man. These people do get hurt. And for you to take some sort of substance or whatever, even if you took it unknowingly, you need to be responsible of what you're putting in your body, you know? You can't just say, "Oh, I switched supplements recently. I didn't know what was in it." You know, they sell it over the counter. Bullshit, man. You need to have some fucking a manager, whoever's going to be reading the fucking labels on that bottle to let you know that you're taking something that will potentially get you banned or make you test dirty. So now Mark Hunt again is attacking both the UFC and Brock Lesnar. He went on to say again that he wants some, if not all, of Brock Lesnar's purse. If not, he won't even fight in the UFC anymore. He does not care. He says he is willing to go fight for another company, whether it be in Thailand or Bellator, whatever the case may be. But he does not want to deal with this bullshit anymore. Again, you have to feel for the guy, man. It's 3 fights that he's already gone through with these people testing positive and no repercussions, you know? And I could see the way where he thinks he should receive the 2.5 or some of Brock Lesnar's purse. You know, it's understandable. I feel bad for the guy, and it kind of does anger me, man. It angers me because the UFC should be doing something about this. You know, it's just bullshit, dude. The UFC is not even going to fine Brock Lesnar or John Jones. They're not going to fine them. They're going to let the Nevada Athletic Commission deal with them and USADA. They'll sanction both fighters. They'll go to trial, all that. And, you know, supposedly the UFC had this big old rule before that if you get caught with any banned substance or some sort of PED, you would get banned for 2 years, mandatory 2-year suspension. Whatever happened to that rule? Now there's all this bullshit, all these fighters getting caught dirty, even though they know that the tests are so stringent now that you know you're going to get caught. They're still doing it and knowing that nothing's going to happen. They're going to have to pay off a lawyer or whatever. It's all politics, man. It's all politics, and it's sad. It's sad. I would want to see the world of MMA, all fighting, clean its act a little bit on how they test the fighters and how they're going about this whole thing, man, because a lot of fighters, it seems that they honestly don't even care. They don't even care about the repercussions they're going to face. So they're just doing it anyways. You know? And the UFC does have the power to fine both of these fighters, but they just won't. Let's go back to the John Jones. John Jones also tested dirty. He tested dirty for estrogen blocker and some other substance. I'm not too sure. Now, again, they will not even face a UFC fine. The UFC had this rule implemented last year of a 2-year minimum suspension. What happened to that? I just don't think it's fair. Every other fighter is seeing this happen before their eyes. So they're kind of themselves like, what the? I'm assuming they're feeling a bit strange themselves how they're seeing people getting away with this crap, man. It's just bullshit. The UFC needs to do something. Not only the UFC, MMA in general, all athletic commissions. Well, actually, this week, yesterday I believe, all the athletic commissions actually got together to rule or to change up the rules in MMA. So, but I'll get to that later. Just MMA, the UFC in general, does need to do something better to take care of their fighters. Because it's not fair to them. It's not fair to the people who pay to see certain fights and then they're canceled at the last minute due to some bullshit of the fighter. Or the UFC not knowing that the fighter is doing this. It is all on the fighter, but it shouldn't all be on the fighter. It should go on the UFC. These are your fighters, so you need to be aware of what it is exactly is going on. I think the UFC either owns or is a co-owner of Muscle Farm. Why don't the UFC make a certain regimen of supplements that are allowed by USADA or whatever athletic commission it is, that are allowed, and give that to the fighter. The fighters would obviously, you would make everything adequate for every fighter. Every fighter is different. Everybody's body is different. I get that. But the UFC should be in charge of handing the supplements to the fighters. Whatever the supplements the fighter does need, UFC should be in charge. Okay, I'll make sure I'll get the proper thing. I know what you need. Let me get the proper supplement you need that will give you that, knowing that you're not going to test dirty. That's what I think the UFC should do. I think that would start a good road for the UFC and the fighters. You know, that would bring up the morale, knowing that you're being taken care of by the UFC. You don't have to worry about your own coaches bringing you some bullshit supplement from Mexico saying that, oh, okay, yeah, it's there's no chemicals in here that will make you test dirty, and then the day comes that you're tested and boom, you test dirty. Again, it's bullshit. I think the UFC needs to pick that up. Now, another thing that I think is bullshit, man, is the UFC rankings. This what I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. The UFC rankings were meant something at a time. It did. You could actually see why the certain fighters were ranked that, but now it's just bullshit. Now it is just bullshit. I mean, this next fight, man, they have the champ Michael Bisping about to fight Hendo. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Hendo. He is one of the greats. He is a legend for sure. He is. I highly doubt he is not going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame. He is one of my favorite fighters. Now, I'm loving the fact that I'm going to see this rematch. Michael Bisping and Hendo. The first fight was intense. The big bomb that Hendo landed on Michael Bisping after knocking him out, and Michael Bisping talking so much trash during the lead up to that fight. It was great. It was great. But at this point in Hendo's career, he's out already. I think he's close to being like 50 years old or something, or 40. He's up there, man. He's up there. I just don't think he has what it takes to come back and make an impact. So the UFC, and he's ranked 13. He's ranked number 13. He's not even in the top 10. He's ranked number 13, and they're having him fight for I'm assuming it's for the title, but they're having him fight the champ. Now, I'm not sure when this is going to be, whether it be 202, 203, or maybe even at Madison Square Garden. But regardless, I'm a big fan to see this rematch. But if you're talking about fairness in rankings and how people have fought their way to the top to have an actual title shot, I don't think Hendo deserves it. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. He's a veteran of the sport. He's great, but it's just fucked up what they're doing to these other fighters, man. There should be other people in line to fight for that. I would actually be excited to see a Luke Rockhold rematch. What happened to Luke Rockhold? He was up there. He was the talk of the town for a bit, and he loses. I mean, I can't say it was a fluke shot because it's a fight, man. Anything can happen. But Bisping knocked him out with a sort of a fluke shot, man, and Luke wasn't ready for that. Now, just like the Conor fight. Conor and Jose Aldo knocked him out with that one punch. It was strange, man. It was not strange. It was just unfortunate to see it end like that. I would have wanted to see both Conor and Jose Aldo bang it out more, as well as Luke Rockhold and Michael Bisping. But Michael Bisping ended up catching him, knocked him out, got the champion belt, and now he's fighting Dan Henderson, which it's... Again, I mentioned it, man. I just don't think it's a great matchup for... It'll be a great rematch, but it's not fair to the fighters that are up there ranked either number 1, number 2. it's just bullshit, man. In the other division, I think it's welterweight with Wonder Boy Thompson and Tyrone. Congratulations to the new champion Tyrone Woodley. Just defeated Robbie Lawler in the first round. He threw a left jab and a right swinging overhook, and boom, laid him out. That was. I mean, I never underestimate Tyrone. I think he was on like a 5 or 7 fight win streak. No. Wonder Boy's on a 7 fight. I think excuse me, it's Tyron, not Tyrone. Tyron was on a 5 fight win streak, and he kind of dodged the bullets with Nick Diaz and all these other fighters trying to put it up. He could have even fought Wonder Boy before the title, but he ended up getting this title shot, pushing the pace, and he got it. Now he's a champ, and you can't deny Wonder Boy Thompson. Wonder Boy is ranked number one. Going back to the ranking as bullshit. Wonder Boy is ranked number one. There's no doubt about that. He is on a 7 fight win streak. The only thing about him is that he doesn't build up the character. He doesn't call out fighters. I could see why the UFC's not pushing for him that much, but he's ranked number one, man. He's a top contender for that title. He should get the next title shot. And unfortunately, I don't think that will be the case, man. I don't think that will be the case. Immediately after Tyron won the belt on, I think it was the UFC Tonight or whatever comes up after the pay-per-view matches, there was an interview where Tyron and Wonder Boy were talking, and Wonder Boy called him out, said, they should fight for the title. And previously, before this match, Wonder Boy actually spit out that he thought that him versus Robbie Lawler would actually be a better draw for fans and pay-per-view. So he wanted to fight Robbie Lawler first. With that being said, once him and Tyron were talking after Tyron had just won the championship belt, Tyron then went to say, well, you wanted to fight Robbie so bad, and you said that would be a great draw. Why don't you go do that instead of fight me for the title? So Wonder Boy got kind of caught on his tongue there, and Tyron wants a big money fight. Now, Tyron's doing great for himself. He's self-promoting great. He's coming out in these movies. He's doing a great job. He's making it seem like he's one of those fighters that is pushing it up there. A superstar. So, to my knowledge, he was already in 2 movie contracts before he won the title. After he won the title, he got 1 more movie contract. So, things are going good for him. So, he's up there. He wants big money fights. What he had in mind is that he wants to fight Nick Diaz. Now, Nick Diaz's suspension has just been it's over. It was over on Monday. He's now back and looking for a fight in the UFC. So we do know how the Diaz brothers situation is going right now. They're getting a lot of attention due to the Conor fight with Nate and Conor. It's bringing a lot of pull to them. So that would be a big money fight for Tyron if he were to fight Nick Diaz. Now, Nick Diaz hasn't fought in a long time, man. His last fight was against Anderson Silva, and he lost that fight. Now, I'm not saying it was a big loss, because that fight was kind of a fluke, but he did lose his last fight. I do enjoy his fights. I'm a big Diaz brothers fan, but I don't. Again, it goes to this ranking bullshit, man. I think Nick Diaz is ranked 3 to 5, between 3 and 5. I'm not sure where he's ranked officially. The UFC needs to update their status page, as a matter of fact. But again, yeah, I think Nick Diaz is ranked between 3 to 5, and that would be a great card. But it's just not fair to the number one contender, which is Wonderboy Thompson. Nick is and Tyron have actually been going at it on Twitter, Twitter beefing. They're trying to make this happen. I think they might get it, just with all the tension already building. But another person that Tyron is willing to fight is GSP. Now, GSP, the all-time greatest welterweight of all time. You know, he is willing to come out of retirement, assuming they would give him a title shot. So, him coming out of retirement would immediately get a title shot. That goes back into the ranking bullshit. It's messed up, man. But that would be a big draw as well. I would personally love to see GSP come back, and see how he goes up against these new era of fighters that have seen more of his fights and his style and are adapting that to their fighting style. So I can say that the MMA world has evolved since George St. Pierre has retired. So for him to come back, it's exciting, and especially to want to fight for a big fight like this against Tyron. I'm assuming he would want to either do it at for 202, 203, or again MSG, and that would be great, for the sport in all, not just the UFC or themselves, but for the sport in general. It would be the first time that MMA would be back at would be at MSG, and especially with such a big superstar as GSP fighting for a title against Tyron, that would be great as well. I think Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler would be a great rematch. They fought once before. Nick Diaz won. This was back in the day. He won against Robbie Lawler. I think this would be a great rematch. People need to remember that fight and see how that went. Robbie Lawler's coming off the loss from Tyron in the first round. I think that's a fair assessment to put them in the octagon together. And if GSP is willing to come back, have him fight Tyron for the title. Or if GSP's not going to come back, let Wonder Boy and Tyron bang it out while Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler bang it out. And whoever wins that, they fight each other for the title next. That was the main event. That card was great. It was, there was a lot of great fights on that card. I'm only going to mention a few. Go check out that card. It was UFC 201. It was great. I feel like that card wasn't promoted as much. It's kind of jammed in between 200 and 202 very quickly. There wasn't that much publicity for it. It didn't get the attention that it needed to get, because Tyron Woodley against Robbie Lawler was a big fight, man. These guys have knockout power, and they didn't get the advertisement they needed. They had the Carolina and Namajunas fight. That fight was great. Namajunas was on a 5-fight win streak. If she would have won this, she would be going to Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the title. But she couldn't do it, man. Her and Carolina went all rounds. I feel that Carolina lost the first and second round, dominated the rest, and she ended up coming out on top. She got the decision. It was a great fight. It was not boring at all. They always say don't leave it to the judges, but this was a fight that they put it there. They gave it their all. It was a great fight. Rose Namajunas got to go back to the drawing board and see how that goes. They might even put her up in a rematch against Paige Van Zandt. Paige Van Zandt has a fight coming up, but if she wins that, she should fight Rose Namajunas again in a rematch, and the winner of that should fight the winner of Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Carolina for the title. That would be a great call, and that would either happen at 203 or Madison Square Garden again. But that fight was great. Go and check that out. Another great fight was Jake Ellenberger versus Matt Brown. Now, I'm a fan of both of these guys. Matt Brown and Jake Ellenberger never disappoint. Jake Ellenberger had been on a little bit of a downfall, but he's always, he's a name that people know. He's great. But to my knowledge, is that he was already out the door in the UFC. I think his fight contract was up, and he had lost his last two fights, but and he was out of contract, but he came back to, whether it be the UFC or Dana, and said, "Hey man, sign me back up. I won't disappoint. I'll make sure that I pull this shit together, and I'll make an exciting fight, and I'll get the W." And that's exactly what happened, man. He went in there against Matt Brown. Now, Matt the Immortal Brown is one of my favorite all-time fighters, man. This guy is never has a dull fight. Always moving. You know, he's got great stand-up technique. But we have seen him in previous fights get exposed with these body shots, man. I'm not sure if it's his core, whatever it may be, but he gets hit in the abdomen and the liver, and he's done. But that's anybody, I'm assuming. He got taken out by these body kicks by Jake Ellenberger. Jake Ellenberger was doing his homework, saw that Matt Brown can't take those body shots for long, and just dominated him in good fashion. He pretty much fought for his job, and he got it done. Ariel Helwani actually said that on the MMA Hour. He was pretty much fighting for his job, and I'm glad for him. I'm not sure how many more fights he signed up for, but I hope that when he fights again, he pushes the pace just like this. I'm going back to what Ariel Helwani had said. This is prize fighting. If Jake Ellenberger does not want to fight for the title anymore, which is the main prize that everyone is fighting for, then get out. Go to another organization to where you know you'll do good. Okay, why not only waste the fans' time and break their hearts, the real hardcore fans that are with you, and you're just losing. You know, we don't want to see that. We want to see you win. But if you can't cut it in the UFC anymore, go somewhere where you know you'll dominate, and we can see you rise up, and then maybe you come back later. I think this is Matt Brown's second loss in a row. These past two fights, the previous fight, that was a war. And this fight, he just got demolished. He got demolished. He needs to go back and regroup, see exactly what his next step is. Because if he loses again, he's going down on the rankings, which again are bullshit, but he's going down on the rankings, and I don't think he will last long if he gets another loss. One thing I did want to mention is that people were waiting for the return of Ian McCall, Uncle Creepy. He was supposed to fight against Justin Scoggins. Now, Justin Scoggins is also a great fighter. I was hoping to see this fight, man. I was hoping to see this fight. But, unfortunately, Justin Scoggins did not make the weight. Now, not only did he not make the weight, he didn't even show up to weigh in. That's a dick move, man. Now, I know that Justin Scoggins and Ian McCall have had some personal beef on the side. I don't really know if that has anything to do with it, to where Justin Scoggins knew that everyone wanted to see Ian McCall back, and he's like, fuck this, you know, I'm not going to show up. Whatever. I don't think he deliberately did it that much, but for him not even to show up to weigh in, it's like he didn't even care, you know. People wanted to see a good fight, and they ripped people off of that, you know, and it sucked, man. It sucked. So now, I'm not sure what will happen to Justin Scoggins. I know that Ian McCall still got paid. He still got paid like if he fought. I'm not sure if he got any of Justin Scoggins' purse, if there was any, but he still got paid. But I personally want to see him back in the octagon. I'm not sure when that will be. I'm sure he's ready to fight for 202. But who knows if the UFC has any more space on that card, or if they even want to put him there. Go check out all the fights on 201, man. They were great. They were great fights. I don't think it got the promotion that it needed to get to push it up to the limit, but it was great fights. Catch that championship title fight. It was great, man. In other news, man, I'm gonna wrap this up soon. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you do, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, or leave a comment. Let me know exactly what information you know in the MMA community or what you would like to see on our next video. I'll be doing this on a weekly basis. Again, we're going to be calling this MMA Last Week Today. In other news, recently Kimbo Slice had passed away. R.I.P. Kimbo. Now he's one of the pioneers. He was doing the backyard brawl, bare knuckle boxing. Then he finally transitioned into professional MMA and boxing. He did a few. I think he did a kickboxing tournament once. He boxed a few. Yeah, like he did a few boxing matches, and he fought MMA. He was a great MMA fighter. It was great to see him go from a bare knuckle brawler with no MMA background, whether that be any clinch game, any Muay Thai, any ground game. And then it was great to see him start from there and evolve into this well-rounded mixed martial artist. He was one of my favorites, man. R.I.P. to Kimbo, man. If I felt really really sad when that happened, but life goes on, and we will remember him. But with that being said, his son, Kevin Ferguson Jr., which I'm not sure if this is his actual nickname, but they called him Baby Slice. He's actually going to debut in the same organization that Kimbo Slice debuted his MMA career in. So that's going to be interesting. There is some great news coming through. Now, all of the athletic commissions are getting together, or they got together, I think it was yesterday, Tuesday or Monday, they got together to change the rules of MMA. And this has needed to happen for a long time. And by change the rules, I'm talking about things that you can do in the octagon now, downed opponents, just certain rules that needed to be changed about the style of fighting, plus the way that you score the rounds. Now, I'm not too well informed yet. I will bring you the information on our next week's video, but to my knowledge, I know they're switching up the rule of what you consider a downed opponent. Now a downed opponent must have both hands on the mat. You can't just put one hand. So you see these people knowing the rules. If you have one hand on the mat, you can't get kneed or kicked in the face, because that counts as you being a downed opponent. Not anymore. Now you need to have both hands on the mat. They've needed to do this for a long time. That's such a stupid rule. Why can't you do that? It's fighting. It's fighting. You're letting these people do all these other dangerous things that are even probably more dangerous than a knee to the face. I'm just happy that all the athletic commissions are getting together to decide and change the rules for better. One more thing, check out these new, they're fairly new, not that new. They've been going on for a few years, but check out these other combat sports. Well, it's a submission and grappling sports and pay-per-views. There's 3 of them. There's EBI, which is the Eddie Bravo Invitational, which is sponsored by Eddie Bravo. That's very interesting. It's a jiu-jitsu competition, but if there's no winner at the end of the allotted time that they give you, they put you in these dangerous positions. So say the time is up, so you go to like a sudden death, I believe they call it. Don't quote me on that. But they'll put you in either in full guard or half guard into these positions to where there must be a winner. So I like that. As opposed to the other grappling pay-per-view, Metamoris. Metamoris is great. They have big names on there, but that submission competition, I've seen a lot of those matches come to draws, and sometimes they just lay on each other for like 20 minutes. It's not that interesting to see. It is. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But I like the fact that EBI puts you into dangerous positions. So there's EBI, Metamoris, and there's a new one that Chael Sonnen is sponsoring. It's called Submission Underground. That I want to check out. That looks interesting. It also has the rules of EBI, but I'm not too sure how they do the final. Like, say if it's a draw. I know they do have a sense of sudden death, but I don't know how they're doing it. Again, there are 3 pay-per-views. You can either look them up online or pay for them or whatever the case may be, man. It's EBI, Metamoris, and Submission Underground. Entertaining. You do see different fighters from different organizations uh, grappling on the mat and wrestling. So that's interesting to see. Sometimes you want to see someone from Bellator fight someone from UFC, and that's where it'll happen. So go ahead, check that out. One other thing to check out is later this week is UFC Fight Night with Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres versus number 13 ranked Yair Rodriguez. That's going to be an intense fight, man. There's a few good fights on there that are going to be interesting. So go ahead and peep that out later this week. Other than that, that wraps it up for this first episode of MMA Last Week Today. I've been PackIt. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you did, like the video, leave a comment below of what you thought or what you would want to see, and subscribe. That way, the next time I make a video, you'll get the update and you'll be able to know exactly what's going on in the MMA world. So, peace out, guys. Until next time.